This girl friend-zoned our simp boy since childhood and used him for years, but when he grows some balls to make a move on her, she holds back and friend-zone him once again. But suddenly she's into him and lets him lick the cat. What happens next is a revelation for our simp that turns him into a man. The movie opens with a brief presentation from our protagonist, Avery, at a science fair. This year's challenge was to develop an app to solve one's personal problem. Being a virgin, she opted to develop an app as a guide for an excellent sexual experience. However, her first sexual encounter following the app was poor. Selling the idea knowing it didn't work out well for her becomes hard. She has a meltdown and withdraws her presentation midway, thus losing it. Now, let's go back a month before the presentation to see the events leading up to this. Avery is an intelligent girl who barely indulges herself in so-called fun activities by her peers. She invests all her time in intellectual matters and to prove it. She hasn't had the time to play around with cocks, not the chicken type though. She's only attracted to people who penetrate her brain, sapiosexual in simple terms. A guy she met in the science fair amused her with his intelligence, and the two became a thing. Casper is the gent who managed to stimulate her brain and give her braingasms. Imagine having to tell your girl about Schrödinger equation and quantum physics to make her calm. I guess when he goes down on her, instead of licking the clit, he talks to it. But I think it's kind of same thing if you get close enough and talk fast with your tongue. Anyway, Avery won the previous year's award and is determined to keep the position in the upcoming one. So, when this year's challenge is announced, she rushes to inform her lifetime friend, Larson, our simp of the day, about it. Larson loved Avery from many years back as kid. He didn't like science at all, but offered himself to her as a test subject. However, the two grew into teenagers and Larson had his balls grow considerably. So he had the balls to make a move to kiss her, but the same balls were hit hard by Avery. My dudes never stay friends with girls. The two agreed to remain friends and terminate their experiments together. However, Larson still enjoys her company to date and proceeds to ask her out for the prom. Avery declines his request, saying she only engages herself in serious stuff. When Avery says she has to develop an app to solve a problem in her life, Larson shoots back, bam, saying she needs to have a life at first. Later at home, Avery faces a hard time brainstorming on what aspects of her life to improve, since hers is all set. She immediately receives a video call from Casper, who is looking forward to committing some fornication later on with her. Avery is startled and immediately fakes a network failure before shutting down her laptop. She has no clue about sex stuff and her parents are no better off explaining it to her. Turns out Avery was brought up by two moms and even has a third bonus mom. What the hell? Avery can't rely on them for advice on how to go about the journey because those things are man's business. Avery finally makes up her mind to create a smart application to help her become a pro in adult stuff. She plans to use it as a guide for her first sexual experience with Casper before the fair. This way, she will have enjoyed an intimate session to break her seal and develop an app to solve a problem. Talk about hitting two birds with a single stone. She immediately embarks on data collection for her app's algorithm. However, the process proves to be harder than she imagined, as she struggles to find info. Her sex ed teacher declines to help her following a beef, since Avery dismissed her class as unimportant. Her mom offers her books to read and advises her to collect data from her fellow students. She takes the latter, while ignoring the former, and starts fetching info from students. This hits a dead end as well, since most of them lack actual sexual experience as they thrive mostly on theories. Well, nowadays everyone's a virgin, because everyone is a gay. Come on. All suggestions lead her to the school star, sex goddess, Danica McCallum. Danica gives her insights about the adult world and suggests she find a practice partner. Avery immediately goes looking for Larson. Like always, when you are in friend zone, she just tells you all her problem, but never want to be with you. So she is asking him to hang out with her every day after school. She says this in front of his music practicals though, leaving everyone in awe. Larson has to step outside to have the conversation and is initially against the idea. He claims that Avery friend-zoned him, but Avery flashes her boobs, and our simp immediately changes his mind. He finally comes around accepting to be her guinea pig again. The following day, the duo meets at Larson's to collect some data. They follow a prompt pre-written by Avery, but Larson first put up a hypothesis. He believes that love and sex are intertwined, and one leads to the other. Avery, however, disapproves this saying and say they are both independent entities. They then proceed to make out and cuddle, something Avery finds pleasurable in her first experience. She is blown into a fantasy world as she enjoys the moment. Up until our boy decides to reach for the promised land, she immediately discontinues the experiment and heads home to upload the data into her system. With her next point of exploration being a handjob, she is left optionless but to find her way back to our simp. He gives her the leeway and she gets down to business, handling it preciously and naively. She startles when it jumps and is amused at the same time. She carefully gives it a massage and our boy spills the milk in a few. He then offers to help her to get her, but Avery quickly dismisses him, saying today's experiment was a success. Later on, she pays another visit to Danica to understand knowing about her preferences. Danica advises she explore herself to know more about her likes. Following Danica's suggestion, she returns home and tries the water jets on her crotch, which works perfectly. However, her mom ruins the experience when she turns on the heater, which scorches her a bit. She is forced to use some ice to cool it down. I thought cats had 9 lives though. Anyway, the following day, Avery continues her digging as she interviews several of her classmates. One of them talks about erogenous zones, and in a very specific prompting, one lady tries to help to prove it. She swirls around while pleasuring herself and shortly screams in happiness as she reaches the peak right in the middle of the classroom. After class, Larson and Avery rushes home to put into action what Avery learned about orgasm. Larson starts off massaging her legs and moves up slowly till he hits the spot and the floodgates open. Avery is like, wow, by her first one as she feels happy and refreshed and goes on to ask if sex is greater than that. But Larson says he knows nothing about sex, but his experience with Avery feels right as everything falls into place. This almost earns him some, before Avery recalls it was an experiment and stops it, leaving him disappointed again. Avery then moves on to compile all the data and finalize her app, naming it Sex Appeal, hence the movie's title. On the fair's eve, Larson approaches Avery asking her out to the Science Museum. She, however, declines the invitation and Larson questions her feelings towards him. Avery acts cold, as if nothing has changed for her since their engagement started. Larson is disappointed and decides to go there alone twice since he has 2 tickets. Avery downplays her emotions as it's clear she felt something for him. The following day she sets out for the fair but even then can't get Larson out of her head. The fair kicks off with Casper's presentation and afterwards the lovebirds head over to the hotel room. Avery launches her app, which gives a prompt to follow. But to her dismay, she fails to enjoy the moment. This consequently ruins her presentation as she feels guilty of selling an idea that didn't work for herself. She has a meltdown while presenting and withdraws it, automatically leaving Casper as the award's winner. That night, she visits Larson, who is already fed up with her. He is done waiting for the moment she changes her mind about him. He reiterates that Avery doesn't care about anyone, as her engagement with him was only beneficial to her. He asks her to leave, stating he has found one who really cares about him. This has Avery thinking and slowly being convinced that Larson was correct all along on love and sexual experience being intertwined. Her attempts to get back to him hit a dead end as Larson makes clear his stand this time, and he doesn't want to be a simp again. Despite Avery confessing she loves him, Larson ignores her and politely walks away. That's my boy. While crying in loneliness, her sex ed teacher saves the day by educating her about life. She tells her it's a part of growth and life, and she should cherish it. This makes her feel much better, and she vows to feel happy for her lost friend. Well, wait until you see Larson in Lamborghini, then you know what you've missed. She approaches Larson's crush and asks her to ask him out, since he is hurt and probably he's not gonna ask any girl out for quite some time. And she claims he is good because she already touched his deal. And this works, as Larson attends prom with his crush as Avery watches from a distance, feeling happy for him. Thanks for watching, subscribe and hit the bell as well, and come back for more clapping. Love ya.